Let's talk about Skims. Have you guys ever noticed that with other intimates brands that the products are either wildly impractical or unbearably uncomfortable? When it comes to bras specifically, I have felt my whole life like I was constantly playing a game of whack-a-mole. If it wasn't one issue, it was another issue. If I wasn't spilling out of my bras every time I bent over, I was getting poked by a super sharp underwire. It felt like there was no winning. But enter Skims. Skims is the only brand that I have found that keeps me secure, comfortable, and confident in my intimates. Shop Skims' best intimates, including the Fits Everybody collection and more at skims.com and Skims stores. After you place the order, be sure to let them know that I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, shop Skims intimates, including the Fits Everybody collection and more at skims.com and Skims stores. Hello everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Killer Instinct, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah and I am your host of Killer Instinct. And before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Wednesday, and we also upload the video version onto YouTube on Wednesdays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. And if you're in the market for more exclusive Killer Instinct content, you can always find that in our Patreon. The Patreon is always linked in the description box below, and if you're listening on Spotify, you can find the Patreon at the top of the banner at the top of the page. But with that being said, let's get into why we are here today and the case we are discussing. As you guys can tell by the title, today we are unpacking the case of Sam Herr and Julie Kibuishi. This is a case that is absolutely mind-blowing. Prosecutors who worked on this case have said that this was the most gruesome case that they had ever covered and ever presented leading up to this point. I am so curious to hear what you guys have to say about this case. Many people believe that this is a case where police had stopped a serial killer in the making, and I'm very curious to know your thoughts on that as well. So with that being said, let's jump right on into it today. To start out this case, we are going to start by talking about Sam Herr. Sam was born on May 29th, 1983 to his parents, Steve and Raquel Herr. He grew up being the only child to his parents, and the three of them were incredibly close. He was described by those who knew him as a kind and generous person. Sam was always looking out for others and wanting to be a helping hand wherever he could. Sam attended high school at Los Alamitos High School in California, and after graduating, he went on to join the Army in 2006, where he served in combat for 15 months in Afghanistan. Afterwards, he returned back home to California and enrolled in Orange Coast College. So with a little bit of that background, we are going to jump into where this case really starts, which is on May 21st of 2010. Now, May 21st of 2010 was a Friday, and on this particular weekend, Sam was planning on going and spending the weekend at his parents' house. His parents lived in Anaheim, which was not too far from Orange Coast College where Sam was living. But when Sam didn't show up on Friday night to his parents' house like they had originally planned, his parents weren't too thrown off. They called him a few times, they didn't get an answer, but Sam was 26 years old. They figured it was a Friday night, he could have gone out, he could have made other plans and just forgotten to call, so they didn't let themselves get too worked up or worried about it. However, when Saturday, the following day, rolled around, May 22nd, and Sam still did not get in contact with his parents, that is when the worry began to grow. The calls that his parents were making to Sam's phone were going straight to voicemail, and because this was so unlike Sam, they decided that they were going to take initiative here, and Steve actually had a key to Sam's apartment, so he drove over to Sam's apartment complex at approximately 9 p.m. on that Saturday the 22nd and walked up to his son's apartment. Steve said that he figured that when he knocked on Sam's door, he would have seen Sam there and Sam would have just forgot that they made plans, or Sam would have been busy with his friends. He he did not expect what he was going to find on the other side of that door. Steve said that he knocked on the door and initially did not get an answer. And because he had a key, he ended up opening up the door and walking into the apartment. And initially, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Steve said that everything in the apartment was clean, everything was in its place, nothing seemed off-putting or suspicious. So at that point, Steve then made his way into Sam's bedroom, and this is where everything changed. When Steve walked into the bedroom, he discovered a woman murdered on Sam's bed. He walked over to the woman and touched her body, and that is when he realized that she was cold. The woman was laying half off of the bed. Her lower part of her body was on the floor, and the top part of her body was laying bent over the bed. There was dried blood all surrounding her head, and Steve, who was obviously in a state of shock at this point, he was panicked. He didn't know where Sam was, and all he knew was that there was a dead, murdered woman in his son's apartment. But again, no sign of Sam anywhere. But at this point, Steve picked up the phone and dialed 911, and within several minutes, the Costa Mesa police officers arrived on the scene. When police arrived on the scene, they were able to confirm that there was, in fact, a deceased woman in Sam's bedroom. It was clear that this woman suffered from severe head trauma. However, the source of that trauma was unclear because her hair was covering where the injuries were, so police were not entirely certain on what was the cause of that head trauma. Now, along with that, the woman's pants were also pulled down to her knees and had appeared to be cut with scissors, which obviously led police to believe that this woman could have been sexually assaulted. And not only that, police also noticed that there was a message left behind from the killer. On the back of the woman's sweatshirt, the words, "Fuck you, she's all yours," were written in marker on the back of her sweatshirt. Alongside with focusing on the woman who was murdered in Sam's bed, it was also clear that obviously at this point, Sam was nowhere to be found. No one was able to get in contact with Sam. Like I said, his phone was going straight to voicemail. No one was able to get a hold of him. And so for all things considered at this point, Sam was also missing. Now, whether that meant he was missing because he was on the run trying to escape what he had done, or if Sam was also in trouble, that was still up for debate. But what police were also able to discover was that there were several items of Sam's that were also missing from his apartment. This included his wallet, his passport, his driver's license, and his car. So it was very clear. There was a picture being painted that Sam was on the run. Now, when looking through the apartment, there were no shell casings found. There was no weapon found. And just based off of the little evidence that they did have, what this case originally presented itself to be was that Sam Herr not only murdered, but sexually assaulted the woman that was found in his bedroom, and now he was on the run. That was the picture that was being painted at this point in the investigation. And there were also multiple potential motives that police were theorizing at the beginning of this case. The message that was written on the back of the woman's sweatshirt clearly sent a statement. It clearly sent a message. And that message read that there was definitely some sort of jealousy. There was definitely some sort of rage. This did not seem like a random attack, but more so something that was thought out, premeditated, and calculated. Now, even though multiple of Sam's items were missing from his apartment, police did discover a purse inside of the apartment. In the purse was a cell phone, a wallet, and inside of the wallet was a driver's license. And the driver's license belonged to a woman who police were able to piece together just based off a first look that was the same woman that was found murdered in Sam's bedroom. And that woman was Julie Kibuishi. Julie was born on February 14th, 1987 to her parents Junko and Masa. She was a student at Orange County College studying fashion design. She also grew up being a dancer. She went to a performing arts high school where she practiced and excelled in dance. She was incredibly talented, and she continued dancing all throughout college while simultaneously studying fashion. Her dance instructor in college described Julie as, quote, graceful and dynamic. She was strong and emotional. Julie's kindness was immeasurable. Everybody loved watching Julie. She was very compassionate and warm and talented, as well as fun to watch on stage, end quote. Her mom stated that Julie grew up being someone who was incredibly caring. She was always looking out for other people, and she loved taking care of other people as well. Now, Julie's autopsy determined that she had been shot twice in the back of the head. Now, surprisingly to police, there was no evidence of sexual assault from Julie's autopsy, which again shocked detectives just based off of how her body was staged, which led police to believe that whoever did this staged her body intentionally to make it look and appear that there was a sexual assault, to try and grow a potential motive or an idea of what a motive could be, when in reality, that might not be the case at all. Based off of the way in which her body was discovered, police were pretty positive that Julie had been sexually assaulted, which, even though they were obviously glad was not the case and glad that did not happen, it still led to more questions than answers at this point. But something that police were told in the autopsy report was that Julie's body had what is known to be called as blanching. Now, blanching are when white patches appear and form on the skin and develop after pressure is applied in those areas for an extended period of time. So, if Julie was laying on one side of her body for several hours, blanching would have occurred. And for Julie, that was the case. But where the blanching was, again, raised suspicion and question. Julie had blanching on her backside in the areas where her jean back pockets would be, and this was inconsistent with how Julie's body was found and how police discovered her, because again, Julie was found with her pants around her knees and she was bent over the bed. So the backside of her body was not laying on any surface whatsoever, but this suggested to police, because of the blanching that was found, that Julie must have been laying on her back with her pants on right for an extended period of time, which caused the blanching, which again only proved to police even more that Julie had been dead for several hours before her body was staged, and that is what caused the blanching to occur. Now, with this discovery of Julie being murdered, police then bring Sam's father, Steve, down to the police station to begin questioning him. Now, they inform Steve that the victim that was in Sam's bedroom was in fact Julie, and Steve was absolutely shocked. Steve knew Julie through Sam. He had met Julie multiple times through his son, and he explained to police that Julie was actually Sam's tutor in anthropology. But more than that, Julie was a good friend of Sam's. Steve said that he had met Julie at Sam's apartment, and he described her as enthusiastic and bubbly. And police asked Steve to explain furthermore the relationship between Steve and Julie. Was it platonic? Was it romantic? Was Sam wanting something with Julie that Julie did not want with Sam, or vice versa? But according to Steve, he was insistent to authorities that the relationship between Sam and Julie was strictly platonic. Steve actually said that he had questioned Sam on this multiple times just to gauge the status of his and Julie's relationship, because they did spend a lot of time together. They did hang out often, but Sam described it as it was as platonic could be. And not only that, he said that he viewed Julie as a little sister. Now, alongside of all of this information, Steve was very forthcoming to police about Sam's background and things that he believed were important for detectives to know. And what police learned in this interview definitely shocked them. Steve had informed authorities that Sam had been in trouble with the law before, and not just that, but Sam had been involved in a murder investigation before. When Sam was in high school, he and 5 other friends pled guilty to murder for stabbing a 19-year-old rival gang member. Now, the theory theory that police came up with at the time was that Sam and another friend of his lured this rival member into the woods, and that is where the murder took place. But the jury actually acquitted Sam and the 5 other men of any wrongdoing, so all of the charges were dropped. Now, Steve said that despite his son's checkered past, he knew how this was going to look to authorities. He knew that this was going to be very suspicious for them to hear. Sam was dedicated and determined to turn his life around, and he did just that. Like I mentioned earlier, in 2006, Sam enlisted in the Army, where he was stationed in Afghanistan for 15 months, and during that time, Steve said that his son matured immensely and that he had a new purpose and focus in his life. Steve said that Sam did struggle with some PTSD after being in combat, which was not uncommon whatsoever, and when he came back from the Army in July of 2009, he started college 2 months later in September of that same year and was trying to begin to live a normal life. That was up until May of 2010 when this all took place. Now, regardless of the picture that is being painted by the evidence that is initially being presented, which is Julie being found murdered in Sam's bedroom, Sam being nowhere to be found, his belongings are missing, his passport, his wallet, his ID, his car, all of those things, it is becoming very clear that Sam is a suspect here. However, police spoke to multiple of Sam's friends who were insistent on the fact that he could not have done this. This wasn't like Sam. They didn't know why this was happening or what was going on, but they knew that Sam did not do this, and because of that, they feared the worst for Sam. All right, you guys, let's talk about my favorite brand. That is no exaggeration. I could talk about this brand forever and ever, I swear. Let's talk about Skims. Have you guys ever noticed that with other intimates brands, that the products are either wildly impractical or unbearably uncomfortable? When it comes to bras specifically, I have felt my whole life like I was constantly playing a game of whack-a-mole. If it wasn't one issue, it was another issue. If I wasn't spilling out of my bras every time I bent over, I was getting poked by a super sharp underwire. It felt like there was no winning, but enter Skims. Skims is the only brand that I have found that keeps me secure, comfortable, and confident in my intimates. It's important to me to have staple intimates in my closet that are functional and comfortable, and Skims provides all of that and more. For example, their Fits Everybody Racerback Bralette has been a game changer for me. I am so supported throughout the whole day. I'm never tugging or adjusting straps or feeling insecure about the way the bralette is making me look. The material is so soft, it feels like I'm not wearing anything at all while still having the support that I need. Sometimes I even sleep in them because they are that comfortable, and I wake up and they haven't moved an inch. My larger chested girls out there know that that is typically unheard of, but not here. And don't even get me started on their underwear. The Fits Everybody thong is a long-standing staple in my closet. They melt into your body. I actually threw away every other pair of underwear that I owned when I tried the Fits Everybody thong a few years ago, and I will never look back. Mark my words, and you will thank me later. Shop Skims' best intimates, including the Fits Everybody collection and more, at skims.com and Skims stores. After you place the order, be sure to let them know that I sent you. Select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select my show in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, shop Skims intimates, including the Fits Everybody collection and more, at skims.com and Skims stores. I don't know about you guys, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. But unfortunately, it seems that traditional big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money too. After years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up from crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and these quote-unquote free perks that actually just cost me more in the long run. So I switched to Mint Mobile. With Mint Mobile, you can say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Luckily, Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. You can ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. If you like money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/killer. That's mintmobile.com/killer. There is an upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5GB plan required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. The new customer offer is for the first 3 months only, then full price plan options are available. Taxes, fees, and extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Now, while the search and the hunt for Sam was in full swing, the forensics team took a look into Julie's cell phone. They wanted to piece together what the conversation was or what Julie's days looked like leading up to the murder and what landed her in Sam's apartment. And when they did, they discovered that on Friday, May 21st at 4:22 p.m., Julie received a text message from Sam's phone. The message said, quote, "Can you come over tonight at midnight alone? Going out for a bit. Very upset. Need to talk. I'm hurting with some family crap. I can't be alone. Please, no sex. I need to talk to someone. I'm really not doing well." Now, again, those were text messages that were being sent from Sam to Julie. And Julie sent back a text 5 minutes later at 4:27 p.m. saying, quote, "LOL, ew, Sam, we are like bro and sis, no sex," end quote. Now, for police, this really does confirm what everyone had been saying regarding Sam and Julie's relationship, how it was strictly platonic, because even though police were hearing that from Steve and some of Sam's friends, it is hard to believe that for them in this instance, especially with the message that was written on the back of Julie's sweater. So seeing this text message where Julie is confirming no sex, that's not our relationship, that's not what we do, it again further solidified that this was just a platonic friendship. One of the friends that authorities spoke with was a man named Daniel Wozniak. Now, Daniel actually lived in the same apartment complex as Sam, and Daniel lived with his fiancée, Rachel Buffett. Daniel had said that not only was he friends with Sam, but he was also friends with Julie. Both him and his fiancée were friends with Julie, and Daniel said that he had last seen Sam on Friday, May 21st at approximately 2:30 p.m. Daniel said that when he saw Sam, he was with Rachel and saw Sam leaving the apartment complex and getting into a black Mazda car, and inside of that car was a man wearing a baseball cap. So now police are looking at this story and thinking that they have a vehicle to look out for. They are now on the lookout for a black Mazda car. Not only that, Daniel said that on his way out, Sam had told him that he was going to go stay with his parents for the weekend. And Daniel said that Sam also disclosed to him during this conversation that Sam had been having some troubles and some issues with his family, and he was hoping to sort that out this weekend. Now, while that does cooperate with what the text messages between Julie and Sam were saying, because Sam also disclosed in those texts that he had been having issues with his family, Sam's actual family said that that statement could not be further from the truth. The Herr family was incredibly close, and Steve said that they were as close could be, and they certainly were not having any problems around the time that this took place. So this pattern that Sam is going around and telling people of him having issues with his family, it was not making sense to anyone. Now, like I said, after May 21st, everyone was all hands on deck trying to locate Sam. Whether they were looking for Sam because they thought he killed Julie or whether they wanted to make sure that he was also okay, everyone was looking for Sam. Steve himself was monitoring Sam's bank account to see if there was any activity coming from Sam's credit cards. And while typically when you have outside resources like the family or friends trying to get involved in the case and playing an active role in the investigation, sometimes that can often do more damage than it does good. However, Steve actually was able to see that from Sam's bank account, there was activity. There was money being taken out. On May 24th, Steve saw that on Saturday the 22nd, there was a withdrawal from Sam's bank account of $400. And on Sunday the 23rd, there was a second second withdrawal of $500. Not only that, there was also a restaurant charge from a pizza shop called Echo's Pizza. Echo's Pizza was located in Long Beach, California, which was where the money was withdrawn from an ATM. Now, police did contact the bank and were able to get surveillance footage of the ATM and watch the money being taken out of the account. And their purpose of doing this was obviously to confirm that Sam was the one withdrawing the money. However, when they saw the footage, they realized that it was not Sam who took the money out. The man who took out the money of the ATM was an unknown young man wearing a black sweatshirt. Now, police brought this picture from the ATM footage to Sam's family to see if they could identify who the man withdrawing the money was. However, none of Sam's family was able to identify this man. Police also theorized that it could be possible that Sam had hired this man to go withdraw the money for him, knowing that he would be on surveillance taking the cash out. So maybe he recruited someone to go get the money for him and paid him off a little bit with the money that was withdrawn. So maybe that was why no one could recognize this man. So that theory was floated around, but police then went and looked at the charges that were made from Echo's Pizza. They were able to track down that the charges, again, were from the Long Beach location of the restaurant, and the Costa Mesa police at this point got in contact with the Long Beach Police Department and made them aware of the situation. Because at this point, police are now wondering if Sam was hiding out in Long Beach. And Sam, being a veteran, showing signs of PTSD in the past, it made police uneasy and skeptical about the condition that they would discover Sam in. They didn't know if he was going to be armed, if he was going to be a threat or dangerous. So with this, the SWAT team got sent out to the residence from where the Echo's Pizza order was made. Echo's Pizza was able to provide an address of where the order had came from. The SWAT team then went to that house and raided the residence, expecting Sam to be inside. But when the SWAT team raided the home, they were surprised as to what they actually found, because inside of the home was not Sam Herr, but instead it was a 16-year-old boy named Wesley Freilich. Now, it's safe to say that Wesley was just as shocked to see police as they were to see him. He frantically told police that this was his mom's house, and when he was asked about the credit card charges to Echo's Pizza and the withdrawal from the ATM, Wesley said that he had an explanation. Wesley went on to tell authorities that he had gotten the debit card from a friend of his. This was someone he used to work in theater with. They would do plays together, and that man's name was Daniel Wozniak. This is the same Daniel who was Sam's neighbor, the same Daniel who had spoken to police, and the same Daniel who said that he saw Sam on the afternoon of May 21st getting into the black Mazda car. Wesley went on to say that Daniel had approached him and told him that he was working for a bail bondsman and that he needed a favor from Wesley. He manipulated Wesley by telling him that oftentimes people will skip out on their bonds and they have access to their bank accounts to get money. He went on to tell Wesley that he was withdrawing the funds and needing Wesley to do so to get money paid back to him from Sam. He said that Sam had not paid him money yet, and this was for that. Now, Wesley said that Daniel was very convincing and told Wesley that he was going to be doing a public service, he was going to be doing a good thing, and that Wesley would get a small kickback of the money that was being taken out. And along with that, Daniel also stated to Wesley that he could use the card to order pizzas. Now, it was very obvious once police began speaking with Wesley that he had no connection to this other than strictly just being manipulated and used by Daniel. And what was really the bigger question here was, who really was Daniel Wozniak? Because at this point in this investigation, all police knew was that he was just a friend, an acquaintance of Sam, but they're starting to realize that they needed to find out more. Daniel Wozniak was born on March 23rd, 1984 in Long Beach, California. He grew up in a nice, loving family, he went to good schools, and he also was a community theater actor. Now, at the time that all of this was taking place in May of 2010, Daniel did have a warrant out for his arrest after failing to show up to court for a DUI he received the year prior. So he had a warrant out, which police were able to act upon. On May 26, 2010 at 8:30 p.m., police contacted Daniel again and asked him if he would be willing to come down to the police station a second time to answer some follow-up questions that they had. And during this conversation, police gave no indication to Daniel about their knowledge of Wesley or the debit card. They really were just trying to lure Daniel in. But Daniel said that this was not going to work for him because Daniel was having his bachelor party that same night. He was having his bachelor party in Huntington Beach at a restaurant called Tsunami Sushi. So what do police do? They decide to crash the bachelor party. They show up at the restaurant, crash the party, and arrest Daniel right then and there. Daniel was arrested for obstruction of justice for the lies he told police during his initial interview, and he was brought down to the police station for further questioning. Now, immediately upon sitting down, Daniel says to detectives, quote, "I lied, and I'm sorry for lying. The last time I saw Sam was not 2:30 on Friday. The last time I saw Sam was on Saturday morning." End quote. So Daniel immediately admits that he had lied, and he went on to tell detectives a story that at 8 a.m. on Saturday, the 22nd of May, he heard a knock on his apartment door, and when he opened the door, it was Sam. Daniel said that Sam was clearly in distress. He said that Sam told him that they both needed to leave. Sam needed Daniel's help in leaving and leaving quickly. Daniel said that without asking questions, he started driving Sam to the Los Alamitos military base, and it was on the way there that Sam confessed to him that he had murdered Julie. Daniel said that when he heard this, he was shocked and he asked Sam what happened. And Sam went on to say that the night before, the 21st, he was looking at pictures of Julie on his computer and he had texted Julie about asking her to come over that night. He said that at that point, Julie agreed to come over. And when she did, Sam tried to initiate sex, which Julie turned down. And Sam said that he had recently purchased a gun off of the black market that he used to then shoot Julie. Now, Daniel said that afterwards he withdrew the money from the ATM as a part of the plan in trying to protect Sam and give to him to escape and to be on the run. Daniel said that Sam offered him some of the money to help him escape, and because Daniel was getting married and he was $2,000 short for his own wedding, he agreed. Daniel said he then hired Wesley to take out the money, and with all of this, Daniel said he did not know where Sam was at that time. Daniel said he then hired Wesley to take out the money for him. That way his picture would not be on the ATM because he knew police would link him back to Sam, and that was the plan. But despite all of this, Daniel was still insistent that he did not know where Sam was. Daniel was very confident in this police interview, but that confidence and arrogance that he had did not last for long. Police asked Daniel for his DNA, which he agreed to give. They took a swab out of his mouth and sent that off to the lab. But what Daniel didn't know at this time is that DNA results, they take a long time to get back. They take up to weeks sometimes to get back, even longer. But this is when detectives decided to use an investigative technique known as a ruse. And this is a deceptive maneuver. It is used to gain information, and they do this by pretty much lying, essentially. And what police did in this moment is they pretended like the DNA results came back within just minutes after Daniel had given over the DNA sample. So Daniel gave over his DNA, the detective leaves the room, and about 3 to 5 minutes later, he comes back, and the detective tells Daniel that the results came back and his DNA is all over Julie's body. Now, again, that was unclear at that point. The results did not come back yet. They hadn't even been sent off to the lab at that point. But the police were trying to deceive Sam, and it worked. Police were questioning as to why that would be the case, why Daniel's DNA would be on Julie's body. And when Daniel heard this, when detectives approached him with this, and when he heard this, he changed his story substantially. This is when Daniel very aggressively blurts out. He starts getting flustered. He starts getting fed up up, and he starts telling authorities that what actually happened was that Sam came to him the night of the murder on May 21st and said that he needed Daniel's help. Daniel said he then followed Sam into Sam's apartment, and that is when he saw Julie dead in Sam's bed with 2 gunshot wounds to the back of the head. What Daniel did not realize is that in that moment, he just gave himself away completely. As I mentioned to you earlier on in this episode, when detectives arrived at the scene and saw Julie in Sam's bedroom, they were not able to determine Julie's cause of death just by looking at her. They knew she had suffered some sort of trauma to her head, but did not know if she had been hit over the back of the head. They didn't know if she had been shot. They didn't know what happened. So for Daniel to sit across from them and say that he saw that Julie was shot twice in the back of the head, this pretty much gave Daniel up, because the only person who would have had knowledge of the number of times that she was shot would have been the person who shot her. And when Daniel realized what he had done, he tried to backtrack and tell police that the only reason he knew that is because Sam told him that, but police were not buying this. And then they took him to a holding cell after this conversation and allowed him to call his fiancée Rachel. It is unclear whether or not they knew that this call was being recorded, but it was. And on this call, Rachel was panicking, and she was saying that she was about to call the detectives and talk to them. She also stated that Daniel's older brother named Tim also wanted to talk to detectives because he had evidence. And Daniel said that he did not want his brother involved in this and did not want Tim talking to police. On the call, it was very clear that Daniel was panicking. On it, he said, quote unquote, "Now I'm really dead," to which Rachel responded with, "Baby, you're already dead." Now, it is unclear what kind of moment of clarity Daniel had after this call, what thought he had after this call, but after this call with Rachel, Daniel told detectives that he had more that he wanted to say to them. So detectives obviously sat down with Daniel in the interrogation room again, and this is when Daniel changed his story again, and he begins to unravel. Daniel looked at detectives and said, "I'm crazy and I did it. I killed Julie and I killed Sam." Daniel went on to say that he had been premeditating these murders for months in advance. Daniel said that he and Sam were friends because they lived in the same apartment complex, and they were close enough for Daniel to know that Sam had $62,000 in his bank account, and Daniel was having financial trouble. Daniel wasn't paying his rent. He had an eviction notice. Neither him nor Rachel were working at the time, so he was struggling financially. And Daniel flat out said to detectives that the motive for killing Sam was both money and insanity. And afterwards, he let out a very eerie, creepy, diabolical laugh. Daniel said that Julie was collateral damage in this because the plan was to make it appear as if Sam murdered Julie and then Sam went on the run because of it. Daniel said that he had gotten a hold of Sam's ATM PIN number after watching Sam withdraw money from his bank account one time. Daniel then lured Sam to the Liberty Theater at the Los Alamitos military base by telling Sam that Daniel needed some help moving some stuff around, moving some set pieces around, and needed Sam's assistance in that, and Sam agreed to do this. When they arrived to the theater, Daniel lured Sam up into the attic of the theater, and when Sam turned his back, Daniel said that he pulled out his father's gun and shot Sam in the head. Afterwards, he said that he then took Sam's phone out of his pocket and began texting Julie off of Sam's phone and baiting her to have her come over to Sam's apartment that night. Daniel said that when Julie arrived to Sam's apartment, he met Julie outside of the apartment in the hallway and told Julie that Sam had also texted him, lying to her as well, saying that Sam had texted him saying that he had some family stuff he was going through and needed a friend. And Julie said that she had gotten the same text message, and together they walked inside of Sam's apartment because Daniel said that he had a key. Once inside, Daniel told Julie that there was something in the bedroom, and Julie walked in to go look, and that is when Daniel shot Julie twice in the back of the head. He stated that he staged the murder to look like a sexual assault that came from Sam. And if that was not enough, if that was not horrifying enough, somehow it gets worse. Regarding Sam, Daniel went on to explain that he decapitated and dismembered Sam. He said that he decapitated his head and dismembered his arms and his hands and scattered the body parts throughout the El Dorado Park. But he kept the remaining body parts, like his torso and the lower half of his body, in the attic of the theater. Daniel said that he decapitated and dismembered Sam using an axe and a hacksaw, and that those weapons were buried in the backyard of Rachel's parents' home. Daniel said that all responsibility was on him. He was the sole person behind both of these murders, and police took all of this information and went to both locations. They went to the theater and they went to El Dorado Park. And when they did this, they were able to confirm Daniel's story. They found all of Sam's remains. Police also spoke to Rachel, who told them that Daniel had given a backpack to his older brother Tim, telling Tim to get rid of the backpack and not to look inside of it. Now, Tim did not listen to Daniel, and he looked inside of the backpack and found a boatload of evidence inside, including Sam's wallet, shell casings, and bloody clothing. Tim then took the backpack, took it to Daniel's parents' home, and threw it off of the hill that they lived on. But luckily, detectives were able to recover the bag, and they also retrieved the weapons that were buried in Rachel's parents' backyard. Now, police got a warrant to go through Daniel's electronic devices, and here they were really able to see the premeditation of the kill. Daniel had been Googling for months how to find a body, quick ways to kill people, and multiple more searches relating to specific calibers of bullets. Daniel Wozniak was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. However, to everyone's surprise, he pled not guilty. So this case went to trial, but the defense really didn't have a defense here. They actually didn't even deny that Daniel killed Julie and Sam. Their main point and their main goal was trying to avoid the death penalty for Daniel. But after a 5-day trial, the jury found Daniel Wozniak guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, and they came to that verdict within 2 hours, and Daniel was sentenced to death. Now, Rachel, Daniel's fiance, was also arrested and charged with accessory to murder after lying to the authorities. She was sentenced to 32 months in prison on November 8th of 2018, and she was released in 2019. Daniel's brother Tim was also sentenced to 10 days in jail and an anger management program. He testified against Daniel in his trial, so he was very cooperative with the police, and because of that, it lessened his sentence. And that, you guys, is today's case. It's the case of Sam Herr. It is the case of Julie Kibuishi, and it is a horrifying, tragic case. When you realize that the motive in this case, that all this came down to was money, it was $2,000 that Daniel didn't have to pay for his wedding. It's greed, it's selfishness, it's betrayal. The fact that Daniel didn't care who he had to hurt or kill, for that matter, to get what he wanted, and he was not going to let anything stop him or get in his way. The fact that he so aimlessly and so willingly murdered another innocent human. He murdered Julie and went to great lengths to make it seem like Sam did it. It's incredibly, incredibly diabolical. But Daniel is currently still sitting on death row, where he will remain until his execution date. But let me know what you guys have to say about this one. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And with that being said, you guys, that is all for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Killer Instinct. Again, if you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah. I'm your host. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly every single Wednesday on the podcast and on YouTube. You're not going to want to miss it. And again, if you want more exclusive Killer Instinct content, make sure you go ahead and hit the link below for our Patreon, where we post an additional 3 episodes a month and a live at the end of every month as well. I'll be back next week with a brand new one for you guys. And until then, stay safe. Bye, guys.